Yeah, hi, I'm Julia. I always start with my name because this is something that you cannot forget. Also, hi to everyone online, and Damien and team, thank you so much for having me today. Uh, as I was introduced as a designer advocate, usually people don't really know what it is, so I just give you like a super quick overview of what I think I'm doing. Sometimes it changes. So usually we're here to, help every team get a bit better with working with Figma or having better work processes in the team. So we're here to educate, to consult, and this is one of the most beautiful parts because I have the possibility to look into so many teams, and this is also why I'm holding the talk today, because there are so many different things that we think is different about us, but actually it's happening in every team again, and they are running into basically the same problems or situations and challenges, and everyone's like, okay, we're not good enough yet. So yeah, this is why I'm here today. And something about me is I love rules and I love to design within constraints. So I'm this person that everyone usually hates because everyone wants to break out of the system. I'm usually the person who's like, no, we have the rules, please stay inside the rules, really important. We created it for a reason. So I'm typically, the person who gets super excited when they find a solution to a problem that's inside the rules. But today I'm here kind of to break it because I think it can be harmful sometimes, to give you the spoiler already. But before we dive deeper into it, I want to have a little disclaimer because there are some examples in my presentation that talk maybe about consistency or inconsistency, and I just want to make sure we're not here to bash anyone. Everyone before, including myself, didn't created the best experience for users out there. More or less often. I have probably 10 examples. I can tell you later if you want to hear about all my failures. I really want to emphasize that we have an open culture to discuss the things that we're producing, and it's super easy that we have everything just polished out there. So let's make sure that every example that you see, everyone tries their best, and we're just talking about how to make it better for our work. Let's start with what we can agree on, I guess. Much of our industry is sold on design systems by now, which is great. Guidelines, values, repeatable patterns in design and code, we most of the time align, but if you want to have someone fighting with you over that, Louis over there is also working at Figma, and he just recently held a talk about why you probably shouldn't have a design system. So I'm on this side here. But yeah, it's still a rather new concept, right? But we agreed on that design systems help build products more efficiently and foremost more consistently. Isn't that a great idea, right? This means the dream of consistency is basically everything is easy to learn, it's more usable, make your interface more intuitive. It's actually too good to be true. But is consistency really the ultimate goal? That's maybe the question to ask in the first place. My spoiler is no, but this really famous design system designer from like 100 years ago famously said, too much consistency is as bad for the mind as it is for the body. Consistency is contrary to nature, contrary to life. The only completely consistent people are the dead. So are we all dead? I don't know. And probably he wasn't talking about design systems, but aren't the systems that we create also for the people out there? Don't we need to be a bit more fluid? Don't we need to be a bit less systemized? Maybe he has a point. When we look into the dictionary, it's the quality of always behaving or performing in a similar way, or always happening in a similar way. And actually, I totally agree with most of that, right? So imagine a button bringing you to another site and another page every time. Sometimes it's happening, sometimes it's not. I totally agree there are patterns that we don't have to create over and over and over again. Of course, we have to have them in the system, and we have to build them stable. I completely agree. But I really believe that too much consistency can lead to poorer product and design decisions. For example, a capsule wardrobe. If you don't know this, I don't have one. Everything is mixed in my wardrobe. But if you have one, this is basically a system where everything fits with everything. So you can be hangover as fuck in the morning, randomly pull out something out of your closet, put it on and it will be amazing, but also maybe really boring. So everything fits to everything. To make this happen, you have to round the corners so much that there is no outstanding anymore. So imagine a situation where you want to stand out, or you go to a wedding where all those colors are probably forbidden. What do? Do you stay inside the system? Do you break out? Now comes my first example, so thank you. Hey, my friends over at Große Elbstraße in Hamburg. They were formerly known as My Taxi, and now they have a lot of products. They worked on recreating their brand, and now they ended up with a lot of logos that are really confusing for me personally, at least up until today. One of them is a taxi service. One of them is a car sharing service, and the other two I actually don't know. But when I think about taxi, at least 3 of them could be a taxi service in my perspective. So up until today, actually, I search My Taxi, and I hope they give me the right answer to find the right of these apps. And this is how it looks like when I have it on my iPhone screen. I'm maybe also not really good with color, so I'm not the best learner, right? So there is a situation where your brand probably decides this has to be the logo, and we're sitting there on the design system side saying, do we have to make this also on the app? Like app icon, don't you think this gets probably a bit confusing? So I think there's a lot of tension sometimes between the brand and the translation of the brand into the design system. And they're not just German situations. I think we all know this. Imagine they are really tiny, again, top left corner, maybe in your tab bar on the browser, and you try to find the right tab. How much seconds did we lose because of that? I mean, I believe the brand design team put a lot of effort in it. I mean, they look amazing next to each other, I totally agree. But the usability of it is decreased in comparison to the one before, in my perspective. So what I want to say is, maybe the design system team needs really to work closely with the brand team. And not just fight or handshake, but really come up with the digital version of a brand in terms of what are the values and usability values that they want to incorporate to the translation of the brand. So try to establish some boundaries, probably. It's like, okay, we can have like a cohesion here. This is important, we get it. We want to be recognizable. We want to be aware of what's going on, how it's going on. But maybe we have to set, as a design system team, boundaries where we can't overstep. Obviously, we need to measure the impact to be able to set those boundaries, but it's really important that you have these discussions regularly. And I see often that the design system teams are not close enough to the brand design teams. And because of that, we have these kind of usability impacts. And actually, I was a bit, maybe you didn't see it, inconsistent. Because the emojis were, if I would have used the same bounding box, they looked like this, and it didn't fit my style, so I changed it a bit. So I was already breaking out of the system. But that's maybe the next question, right? Is there a mathematical kind of consistency or more like a visual one? So how do I translate that? I had so many discussions with developers before where they're like, yeah, but we decided for the 40 by 40 bounding box. It's like, yeah, but the heart is completely different than the little explosion. I mean, it's different. It's like, so how do you say usability from a perspective of a mathematical point of view, but also maybe from a visual point of view? And they have to flow into the same system. And it's really hard to translate that, I totally agree. But this looks not so good as this one. And this makes something with us. Emotions are important. So what I want to say first is align on cohesion over consistency with your brand team, gain their trust to be able to translate the brand into a usable product. Create those visual guardrails, but also be able to say no. Another example are the material UI text fields. On the left side, you see the old version. And it was a usability nightmare. Maybe not a nightmare, I'm exaggerating maybe, sorry. But people didn't know that they can click inside. They looked a bit disabled. They had to learn them. In comparison, the right one is standing out. But if you're working with an Android team, they probably try to convince you that you have to use the left one if they're They're in material UI. Someone thought about it. And you're like, yeah, but it's not the best usability. So isn't that the point in time where you have to say, okay, maybe the system is not right for me right now? Today, it's better, but to incorporate these changes, it takes time. It's not today I decide we have like a background and it's behaving differently, right? We're impacting so many products probably. So it takes time, but you as a product designer have the opportunity and the responsibility today to build a good product, right? And a good outcome. And have you ever tried to expand the side panel in Figma? On the right side? Spoiler, it doesn't work. You can't. But maybe to explain how we ended up there. Back in the days, we didn't have all these features. So we didn't have auto layout, component properties, and so on and so on. You know that? Or you don't, it's also fine. And now it gets super messy on the right side. And you want to expand it because the names are really long. But back in the days, when you set up the grid, it worked probably fine. It's totally fine. We didn't need to expand it. And so we broke it. The layers panel on the left side, you can do whatever you want by now. So probably it's also going to change on the right side. I hope so. Hi, friends. I'm not the one to make the roadmap. So doesn't it say kind of that the design systems often map to things that worked in the past, but not necessarily in the future? You cannot plan for everything that's to come. I know we always want to do. We will have like all these edge cases when we think about design systems, like, okay, this might happen in the future. Then you create like 1,000 components that nobody's using because nobody needs them yet. Or maybe never, who knows? So let's think about that they worked in the past and that we stay open to change. And that design depth is actually a thing, and it's fine. I know we thrive always to deliver the perfect product from second one, but we also keep ourselves away from actually getting the feedback soon. The 8 or 10 pixel rounded corners sometimes don't matter. And I'm sorry to say that because I'm like the person who's always like, 8, not 10. So it's okay to release something that's inconsistent sometimes, in my perspective. And today's inconsistency hopefully can become tomorrow's consistency, in a sense of, I break it today, and tomorrow probably we're incorporating it into the design system. I tested it basically on a small scale. And when we talk about products again, maybe the numbers are pretty small, so we range from 8, 18, 24, 22, 16, 4, all is different. But you're still able to click the buttons, right? So, yes, but maybe they're working on a revolution. Maybe there are 10 different teams working on this. Maybe the button that they were supposed to use didn't work out in the first place, so they decided for something else. And actually, when I go further and read the tweet messages underneath, it's like they're even defending some kind of spacing. It's like, hey, it looks more visually aligned. So that's the capsule wardrobe, right? Sometimes you need to break out to make this look good again and help you understand what you're building. That's maybe the mathematical versus visual kind of thing again, right? So sometimes you just feel it's not right, even if the system tells you. So in my perspective, consistency is not a goal to achieve, but it's a way to achieve goals. Means, yes, a button has to behave the same all the time. Should be. And in an ideal world, you also have a content writer who's doing a really good job on what to write on the button. But sometimes it's hindering. Next thing about design system teams, in my perspective, is they have a lot of power. So yes, we fought for it, that we get them, and we centralize more of the design system, which is amazing. But also what came with it is a lot of people gave away their power as product designers. They gave it to the design system team because they drive a lot of decision across multiple products and multiple platforms. They hopefully talk with brands, so they're deciding so many things day by day. And they're digitally translating the brand, as we said. They oversee basically everything. And then we're probably landing somehow in the Milgram psychology experiment. Who haven't heard of that before? There's like this E person who's an instructor and tells the T person, the test person, to give an electroshock to another person in another room. And it came out, by the way, all test persons were male. I don't know if there's a different outcome if genders were mixed. that when you have someone in authority telling you something, you would give those shocks more willingly than if you had to decide for yourself. And isn't this something that could also possibly happen with the design system team? It's like, hey, use this pattern, it's consistent. And product design is just like, yeah, okay, if you tell me so, and you're throwing just pattern at the problems. And the user is like, what the heck do you want me to do? I have no clue. It's like, yeah, but it's consistent. So does it make product designers lazy? I don't know. Or is it maybe that we have to rethink how design system teams work? Maybe they have to be servant leadership rather than a totalitarian state. Oh my God, there's some more words in this presentation I can't say. So maybe servant leadership is in the definition I just read out. Is a philosophy in which the goal of the leader is to serve. A servant leader shares power, puts the needs of the employees first, and helps people develop and perform as highly as possible. Couldn't this also be the goal for the design system team? In sense of, hey, it's not just how few components get detached, but how are the goals reached by the product design team using the design system in the first place. So maybe we need to let go of some of the power and trust that we don't have just production designers, we have product designers. They are professionals, right? They are not drunk in the morning trying to, or hangover, depends when you came home, just pulling something out of the wardrobe and have to put it on without thinking. They are actually thinking human beings. They studied design, so we have to trust them, that they have the best interest in mind. And obviously there's some friction, and you have to have these discussions. But sometimes it's design first and design system second, because they have to reach a goal. Is the usability has to be really good, and the design has to be really good to serve the actual business value. So my perspective is define the goal and the impact that the product should have. And I'm not talking about the design system as a product, but the product that this design system is used for to create. Then build a design system, and then also measure it against those goals. And it all comes back, my perspective, to communication and collaboration. And I'm like a broken record in that topic every time. So when we just go back for a second, I know measuring against those goals is really hard sometimes when you talk about a design system. But defining it in the first place, the product designer sitting in the teams, you know what they need to deliver, and you can help on this journey. So going to the next step, communication and collaboration. It's like a lot of teams that we're talking to are always like, hey, how can I limit all the possibilities in the design system? How can I limit everything that's available in Figma, for example, so designers just know what to do without me needing to explain it? I really want to say, tools are not here to avoid the conversation, but actually to facilitate them. You have to enable with the tool the conversation that you need to have. You cannot go around it. It's just too important, it's just too difficult. Things are too complex to just throw patterns at it and hope everything works out. So what about product design office hours instead of design system office hours? I hear it quite often. It's like, oh yeah, product designers need to be more like design system designers. They have to think more about analytically the analytics of how the product design works. And actually, can't we turn it in the other way? Sometimes the design system designers maybe need to sit in the product team and see how actually users are using the patterns that they created in a perfect environment. And talk to them. Maybe pairing. What about pairing? I know, in the development world, it's probably really usual by now, but the fear of us product designers, design system designers sitting next to each other and actually doing something at the same time, it's real. But if you do this, it can be really beautiful, and then hopefully you create something that's more stable for the future, right? So, design system designers out there, or teams who are managed, it's like, go to the user tests. Have you ever seen what comes out when everything is just pulled together, how it's supposed to be, and not detached, and not improved in a way that's usable? Have you seen that? And I think it's really important that you, together, hopefully, create something that's more stable in the future. And then it's about building possibilities for designers to challenge the system, or even actively to sneak around it. And yes, I'm saying this, and I really like that slide. It all comes back to psychological safety. So, is there a possibility for the designers to actually challenge what is there? How easy do we make it to get questioned? It's super easy to say, yeah, but we defined it earlier. No, be open to change, incorporate all the important things that make it better for the future. And yeah, maybe even actively sneak around it. And that's something that I personally really like. It's like, have you ever found a loophole in something? I don't know, maybe a rule. It's like, yeah, it's not really explained. The joy that creates inside of you when you are the one doing the overrides in a situation that it actually reaches your goal. Like the headline is huge, nobody's like, what the fuck is happening here? It doesn't look good anymore, but actually it solves the need. Why shouldn't you do this? Why shouldn't the design system incorporate these kind of sneaking around situations? I think this is something that can be really, really helpful. So maybe we should incorporate play and deviation inside our system in the first place. Make it easy for people to walk around, but help them come back. I mean, the design system designer can be a curator, right? You sit together with them and say, you can also reach it from a different perspective. Maybe you can use this pattern. If you think about like this, that's the pairing part. Sit next to them, talk to them. So make your system a bit more fun. It's not about production work. It's about creating a good product for the people out there. So be consistent with when to be inconsistent. And I think, okay, how? Is there a possibility how to do this? I think one of the possibilities is to create a system for snowflakes. And snowflakes are not the weird people who love Donald Trump in this case, but snowflakes are also called like the deviation from the system. Maybe you can do something. I think Facebook is doing that. So Facebook has kind of a design system. Obviously, they serve a lot of products, a lot of areas in their product, and they have the possibility that you as a product team go to the design system team and say, hey, by the way, we want to have like this deviation. And they're like, yeah, sure. They give them an API key. The only thing that I have to do is document what they're doing. And this is, I think, the really, really important thing here, that you make it discoverable. Not just detaching the components, just do whatever you want, go Wild West style, no. But actually bring it back in a way that this is something special for our team right now. Maybe it can be part of the system tomorrow, which means as soon as more than 3 design teams adapted to this new pattern, it will become part of the design system. And I think this is a really important part. It's like, enable the deviation in the first place because you're also enabling innovation. And yeah, at Figma we're doing something similar. We're also calling it experiments. People are just, detaching everything, rethinking everything, and not thinking about the system in the first place, just to see where we want to go. Maybe it fits at the end in the system, this is fine, but the sharing model that we released, not sure, maybe. There are some buttons inside, or when you wanted to copy the link, it was super small. People are doing this all the time. It's like you had to break out of the system in the first place to make this more discoverable. What I want to say in summary, yes, there's the possibility to be too consistent, and it can decrease the usability. To not make this happen in the first place, enable the possibility for deviation. It's okay if not as everything in the system. Let's be more flexible. Try to not be like me, getting super angry when everything is detached. And make it consistent when it helps the product, because it can help achieve the goals. I totally agree. So, but not just for the sake of it. That being said, I thank you really much. Happy designing. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me around later on today. And yeah, nothing great is made alone. This is also part of a lot of other people. So thank you so much for your feedback. Happy to get questions.